So in this video, we're going to take a look at the new Sega Genesis Mini. And I'm just going to compare that to the Sega Genesis Flashback, which is the mini version by AtGames, where it has 85 built-in games versus 40. You can play the original Sega Genesis cartridges. And as you can see, the box for the AtGames version is huge. So first let's take a look at the new Sega Genesis Mini, just released by Sega. I actually sold my original Sega Genesis for $40 at a garage sale when I was a kid. Not really the best decision now looking back at it, but whatever. You can see this is rated T for teen, and it's a plug and play system that includes 40 legendary games plus 2 bonus titles. So definitely pretty cool looking box art. And this does include 2 of the 3-button controllers, a USB power adapter, power cable, and this one does include an HDMI cable. And they've got the list of all the games on the back. Let's go ahead and do an unboxing, get this connected, and then we'll take a look at what games are included. So let's go ahead and open it up and see what we've got. So it comes with the user manual. I was sort of hoping it would come with a poster like some of the Nintendo mini consoles, but I guess not. HDMI cable, micro USB charging cable, and charging brick. The nice thing is this does have the Sega logo on it, which makes it a little bit nicer. Okay, so as for the controllers themselves, these actually look really nice. I really like what they did with the plastic here. It has like a matte black, and then around the buttons and D-pad, it's sort of a high gloss finish, and the construction actually feels pretty solid. And you can see on the back is the Sega logo, and of course these are made in China. And the nice thing is there are 2 controllers included with this system, which I think there should be, considering this costs around $80. And you can see it is quite a long USB cable, and you can see the USB connector there at the end with the Sega logo. Okay, so when they say mini, they really mean it. This thing is super tiny. And the cool thing is it actually opens where the cartridge would go. Down here in the corner is your on and off switch, your reset button, and then your volume for headphones. But unfortunately you can see you can't actually use headphones with this. Then you can see here on the front are the USB ports. On the back is the micro USB port and your HDMI out. And then on the bottom it's got this little piece that comes off. I'm not really sure what that's for, other than maybe some kind of expansion pack or something that the original had. I don't remember considering it was so long ago. And the power on this is 5 volts or 1 amps, just in case you're wondering. So here's a quick size comparison of the new Sega Genesis Mini versus the Sega Genesis Flashback, which I guess that makes sense considering this one you can actually use cartridges. And then even though the controllers are wireless for the AtGames version, obviously they don't look quite like the original, where the one from Sega looks pretty much identical. So let's go ahead and hook this up and take a look at what games are included. Now you can see the red lights on now that we've got it powered up. And you've got a handful of different languages to choose here. Let's just go ahead with English. Okay, so right up front, you've got all of the box art of each game included in this. Let's just do a quick rundown of what games are included. Alex Kidd and the Enchanted Castle, Altered Beast, Space Harrier 2, Ghouls and Ghosts, Golden Axe, Columns, Thunder Force 3, Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse, Strider, Sonic the Hedgehog, Toe Jam and Earl, Wonder Boy and Monster World, Road Rash 2, Echo the Dolphin, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Super Fantasy Zone, Kid Chameleon, Alicia Dragoon, Streets of Rage 2, World of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, Shining Force, Gunstar Heroes, Shinobi 3 Return of the Ninja Master, Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition, and then you've got Landstalker, Sonic the Hedgehog Spinball, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Eternal Champions, Castlevania Bloodlines, Contra Hard Corps. Then you've got Light Crusader Beyond Oasis, Phantasy Star 4, Mega Man The Wily Wars, Dynamite Headdy, Earthworm Jim, Comic Zone, Vector Man, Virtua Fighter 2, Monster World 4, Darius, and Tetris. And you can see down in the corner it tells you whether this is a one-player game or two players. Up in the left corner you've got settings, where you can change the language or screen settings, wallpaper settings, staff credits, legal notices, and you can also reset to factory settings. Very similar to the Nintendo Minis, you can choose the wallpaper to go along the side, or you can choose no wallpaper at all. Then you can actually sort the games up in the right hand corner by release date, alphabetical order, genre, or number of players. So that's definitely nice to have. So the games that I've played so far on the Sega Genesis Mini work really good with not much lag at all. The cool thing about this mini console is it will give you a preview of the games to show you what they look like in case you're not sure of which game you want to play next. And the other thing that I don't think most people realize is just how convenient both of these systems are, that you can just plug them in using HDMI and you don't have to worry about the old style connections, since most people aren't going to have those anyways on newer TVs. It gives you 4 different save slots to use for each game, and then of course you can exit to the main menu. Unfortunately, there is no menu button on the controller itself. So if you're thinking of buying the Retrobit 8-button arcade pad with USB, I would not recommend this controller for the Sega Genesis Mini for one reason. When you play Contra, yeah, this controller doesn't work. You can't actually move when you're shooting, which makes this controller useless. So now that I've been testing out the Sega Genesis Mini and the Sega Genesis Flashback, there's a few things to consider when buying either of these. For one, the controllers on the Flashback leave a lot to be desired. They don't feel nearly as good as the original or the Sega Genesis Mini, although they are wireless, which is a huge plus in my opinion. But you can use the original Sega Genesis controllers on the Flashback, which would probably be a lot better. I'm definitely going to be ordering the new 8-bit DOE wireless controller for the Sega Genesis Mini once it comes out later this year. Now, one of the biggest differences in the Sega Genesis Mini and the Flashback version is when you go to the home screen on the Sega Genesis Mini, it's way easier to use than the Flashback version. You don't have to use B and C buttons to navigate, which is really strange. I have no idea why they thought that was a good idea. Now, the Flashback console appears to have the advantage with games since it comes with 85 built-in games, but about 20 of those 85 games are games that I probably wouldn't even bother to play. And you can play whatever game you want if you have the Sega Genesis cartridge. I tested a couple different wrestling games. One worked and the other wasn't recognized for some reason. It could have been that the condition of the game wasn't that good, so I may have to try a couple more cartridges just to see if those work. The Flashback version doesn't have Street Fighter 2 or Streets of Rage 2, and the new Sega Genesis Mini doesn't have Mortal Kombat games. So that's something to keep in mind if those games are important to you. So which of these two is the better console? Well, in my opinion, the Sega Genesis Mini is going to be the better console for most people. But there's other Sega Genesis games that I'd like to play, so I'm going to keep both of these so that I can play the cartridges on the Flashback version, because you don't get the Save Anywhere feature on the original Sega Genesis console. especially if you can find one cheap on eBay like I did. So if you've made it this far into the video, you may want to say thanks by subscribing, and don't forget to give a thumbs up if this video was helpful. This is Brian from Fishbee Productions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.